Chapter 3. Disturbed. I knew I had to let go of Parker. I was miserable. I didn't want to break up with him, but I had to, for me. I was slowly losing my self-respect being with Parker. I was becoming an alcoholic, which I didn't like to see in myself. I wasn't liking myself very much at this point. I was drinking constantly when I was with him, and I was compromising my self-respect and well-being. I was, in a sense, subconsciously using him to ignore the fact that I needed to work on myself and find myself. I had been in this position more than once before in my life. The only way to change that was to remove myself from the situation and from the people with whom I surrounded myself. I didn't blame him for any of this. I myself had made the choices to behave in this way, and I was taking responsibility for me and my actions. My heart was breaking. My logical and rational mind knew I should break it off with Parker, but my heart wanted otherwise. I couldn't go on in this relationship because I was constantly being let down. I wanted our relationship to be so much more than this fun-loving friendship. I wanted to see Parker grow and thrive. I wanted to see myself grow and thrive. I wanted us to grow and thrive as a couple. I knew Parker wasn't capable of it at that point in time, and it was possible that he would never be capable of ever having a relationship like that, whether it was with me or with anyone else. As frustrated as I was, I decided to stick around a little longer. The holidays were coming up, and it's hard to be alone during that time. I knew it was going to be difficult for me too, and I heard Parker tell me many times that he felt that the holidays were going to be very depressing for him. He and I both had loved the holidays when we both had families to share them with. He had loved decorating his home and being festive. I did too. Neither of us were going to have that this year. I didn't want to be alone, and I didn't want to break up with him before the holidays. I didn't want to cause him any more grief than he was already anticipating. We continued as normal throughout the rest of October. November brought Thanksgiving. I wanted to do a big meal at my apartment for us, but he wouldn't allow me to. I did bake some pies, but that was for me, because I needed to bake, and it was the one thing in my life at that time that was therapeutic. I hated cooking, but baking? That was cathartic. We ended up at the Sizzler for Thanksgiving dinner. I hated it, but it was what it was. In December, I took Parker to my Christmas party. I got very drunk, very quickly. I can't remember how many shots of liquor I'd had. He didn't dress up for me at all. I thought I deserved that at least. He hit on one of my coworkers, and that pissed me off. We ended up leaving when dessert was being served. He knew I was thoroughly pissed by what he had done. It was so disrespectful. He coaxed me to have another drink at the bar. I wanted to go home. It was very cold, windy, and raining. We were in the parking lot, and I wanted a cigarette at that point. I was so mad, I was shaking. I looked at Parker, and his eyes were very big. He knew he had hurt me. He looked scared of me and what I might say to him. He knew I was very disappointed in his behavior. He was trying to put a Band-Aid on my hurt with another drink. Parker had wanted me to meet his friend Mark and his wife. He was also talking about introducing me to his sister. There was a part of me that really did not want to meet them. Call me crazy, but I felt as though if I did meet them, I would feel even more obligated to continue to date Parker. I wanted to run in the opposite direction. I felt very honored that Parker cared about me and wanted to share me with the people in his life. I agreed to meet his friend Mark and Mark's wife. A couple of days before New Year's Eve, we went to their house. I drank way too much. Parker and Mark put me to bed in a camper on the property. I'm not too sure if I had fallen asleep or not. I don't know how, but I had my phone with me in that camper. I heard a message notification. It was a high school friend of mine who told me that one of our mutual good friends from high school had passed away. I was still drunk and was having a hard time focusing my eyes on this message and then comprehending the message itself. My dear friend Debbie had passed away. Not too many months prior, a group of high school friends and I had attended Debbie's mother's funeral. This message really shook me. I was having a hard time digesting the fact that my friend, who was the same age as me, had died. Debbie and I were thick as thieves in high school. We didn't see much of each other after graduation, but when I had seen Debbie over the years, she didn't seem genuinely happy. There seemed to be this sadness about her that she was trying to cover up. She also seemed to be groggy from medication. I recall her slurring her words a few times. I sensed that she was in pain and carried deep hurt with her. When death appears in our lives, we tend to look at ourselves in one way or another. For me, I questioned whether I was truly happy in my life, where I was at and where I was going. The fact was that no, I wasn't happy where I was at and what I was doing. I hadn't been truly happy in a very, very long time. I didn't want to be alone in that camper any longer. I ventured up the hill to the house. I told Parker that I just learned of my friend passing away and I wanted him to go to the camper with me. He was even more drunk than me. It wasn't a very safe place to be, drunk on a dark hill with brick and concrete steps. I struggled with Parker as he was telling me not to let him fall. He was much bigger and very heavy for me to guide. He was also not steady and stumbling on his own. And I wasn't the greatest of help as I was still drunk and stumbling. I got him back to that camper without having anybody lose blood or consciousness. I thought the struggle was over, but we still had to deal with the steps into the camper, and then 2 more up and into the bed. Parker stumbled and grabbed the curtain room divider that hung from the ceiling. I tried to push him onto the bed when I saw him falling, but he was too heavy and drunk for me to maneuver. The curtain ripped from the ceiling and Parker fell between the wall and the bed. I don't know for sure, but I am confident he had bruises afterward. I don't remember how our dialogue began in the camper. I am pretty sure that it was me and that it was about me pleading with Parker to change and commit to our relationship. I told him that I loved him and wanted to be with him. And of course, as usual, Parker telling me that I needed to find somebody else, to find a good man, a rich man, a man that would take care of me like I deserved to be taken care of. This night's dialogue was a little different from those that had preceded. I had never heard Parker talk like he did that night. I had never been around Parker when he was that drunk. To this day, I really don't know what he was going through or where he was exactly in his head. What I do know is that Parker was in a very dark place both emotionally and mentally. I'm an alcoholic. I'm no good for you. I'm a truck driver that basically makes minimum wage. You need to find somebody better than me. Although this may have been the truth, it was hard for me to hear him talk so poorly of himself. It was hard for me to listen to him say the truth out loud. I knew all of this, but at the time, I didn't care and told him so. I wanted to be with him and wanted a future together with him. I knew that this was my heart talking, but my logic and reasoning told me he was right. I knew the true Parker, the real Parker underneath all this garbage. I knew underneath the tough alcoholic truck driver veneer lay a very hurt person who covered it up with alcohol and anything else that would divert his attention away from his pain. And beyond all that there was this truly awesome person. A skilled fisherman, hunter, and taxidermist, Parker was also an amateur mycologist, talented drummer, and artist. A nerdy guy who loved to potter around the house, tend to his plants, and put up yard decorations. He was the clown who was always cracking jokes. He liked to cook and was very good at it. A kind, gentle, humble, and warm, good-hearted man. This is the man I had fallen in love with. He just happened to be a stereotypical alcoholic truck driver. I had Parker read most of what you had read thus far. He had called me and wanted me to be aware that when he was married to his second wife, she had taken him to a medical center to go into an alcoholic treatment program. He claimed that his health at the time was good. He said that through the interview process that the medical center treatment program declared that he was not eligible for the program because they did not consider him to be an alcoholic. I think I will let you, the reader, decide for yourself. I saw Parker's potential. Parker, like so many people, including myself, fear facing our fear and pains to live our true potential and to be our authentic selves. It's so much easier and safer to follow the course we grow used to, the rut we live our life in. It's easier to wallow in self-pity and to blame other people for our situation in life. It's easy to not take responsibility for ourselves in one way or another. No one is immune from this. Change is hard. Change requires growth. Change can be painful. I knew that I would never be able to change Parker. Only Parker can change Parker, and only if Parker wanted to change. It wasn't my job to change Parker or anybody else. We both woke up early feeling like shit, with little sleep and big hangovers. The hour-long drive home was quiet, and it felt like there was a dark cloud hanging over us. It was a little gloomy outside, but I am talking about the atmosphere inside the car. We didn't have much to say to each other. He knew I was disappointed with him. I could see him out of the corner of my eye looking at me with those big brown scared eyes. It was the same look he had at my Christmas party in the parking lot a couple of weeks earlier. It was now New Year's Eve. We had plans to go out, but that evening he canceled on me. I suspected he had gone out with somebody else that night. I had already made up my mind to break it off with Parker. I wasn't sure what kind of reaction I would get from him. I thought possibly the truck driver attitude. Fuck you. I was going to break up with you anyways. I was going to break up with him on New Year's Day, but New Year's Day came and went. We texted back and forth and had talked on the phone. I didn't really know what was going on with him. The following week, I didn't see him at all. I knew that he was more than likely seeing somebody else, and I had to just get this breakup over and done with. I was hurting myself by staying in the relationship feeling like this. I didn't really want to break up with him over the phone, but I had to do it for me. It had to be done. I wasn't seeing anybody else. I didn't want to see anybody else. I wanted him, but it just wasn't going to happen the way I wanted it to. It was the evening of January 8th, 2017, and one of us called the other. I finally blurted out, Parker, I didn't want to have to do this over the phone, but you have avoided me all week. I'm sorry. I can't do this anymore. I have to break up with you. I know. I was sobbing. I am breaking my own heart. I love you very much. I will always love you. I was hurting so bad. At the other end of the phone, I heard Parker's voice crack. I knew he was on the verge of crying. I was breaking his heart. His reaction felt and sounded very genuine. Well, do you think we will ever get back together? I responded, Parker, I don't know. I just don't know. I knew that it would require so much change on his part that it would be almost impossible. He would hold resentment toward me for asking him to change. I knew only too well about waiting around on men to change. After all, I had done it for 21 years prior. How much more of my life was I going to wait for other people to change? I was the one who had to change, and I was the one who had to take the steps toward finding my own happiness. I was heartbroken. I can't really remember how the conversation ended. I don't remember what else was said. But I know we agreed we could still be friends and would meet up for Taco Tuesday every now and then. Little did I know at the time what kind of an impact that relationship with Parker would have on me and my life's purpose. Everything happens for a good reason. I had no idea that God had placed Parker in my life and used him. Later, I would find out that Parker was my soulmate. My breakup with Parker would guide me down a spiritual path that would lead me to a cave in the middle of a desert in another state, and that I was destined to become a spiritual healer and teacher. After I broke up with Parker, the two of us tried to be friends. We even hung out together and did our Taco Tuesday thing. He would call me, text me, and I him. We were the same people, but it seemed like we were even sadder being together knowing we couldn't be together, but knowing we were not together at all. The breakup wasn't easy. I loved him very much. I knew it was in my best interest not to date him anymore, but my heart ached for him. I thought about him all the time. I knew his schedule, and I would think about where he might be and what he might be doing. There came a point when Parker was texting me and calling me, and it hurt. I felt like he was toying with me. You know, when you are a kid and the boy who likes you pulls your ponytail and hurts you. It felt just like that. But it was more painful because this grown-ass man couldn't verbally communicate his feelings with me. All he did was tease and taunt me. I guess I would do the same to him in a way. I would text or message him from time to time. I didn't have much trouble getting over my ex-husband, and I had at one time loved him very much. My husband provided for me and was a good father and husband. Our relationship had lacked in areas, and for a while, I was angry with my husband. I live by the motto that everything happens for a reason. Standing back and looking at my life, I summed up my marriage as having served its purpose. I didn't hate my husband, nor was I in love with him any longer. I had forgiven my husband in my heart for not being what I wanted and needed. Our marriage wasn't entirely awful or ugly. I saw the biggest blessing as having raised two wonderful boys with this man. I so wanted Parker to show up on my doorstep just to say, hi. I just wanted to see Parker. It was hard to go places that Parker and I had gone together. He was constantly on my mind. I had never had such a hard time with a breakup in my life. I couldn't figure out why I was having such a hard time with it. I wondered if it was because I was older and he was my first boyfriend since before my husband. It had crossed my mind that Parker was my soulmate. I had even told some girlfriends of mine that Parker was my soulmate. In trying to get over Parker and move on, I decided I would do some online dating. It was exciting, but at the same time, wore me out. I developed an addiction to checking the dating sites and messages. I did go on a few dates. A select few had the privilege of a second date or more. There was one who was fun to hang out with. He had issues, and many were too much like Parker's issues, but we still had our fun. A series of embarrassing events occurred, which ended me seeing this one guy. This guy kept asking me if my kids were going to show up and surprise me on Mother's Day. My youngest son, who had a key to my home, did come to surprise me on Mother's Day. My son didn't take heed that there was a different car parked in the front of my house and that my car was gone, nor did he try to call or text me before letting himself in. He walked in on this guy in my house, and that was the end of that relationship. I was back on the dating sites once again. It was tiring. It took a lot of energy to message back and forth trying to decipher how much was true in the dating profiles. I started talking with this good-looking guy. We had some deep conversations. I was sensing that something was off. The phone numbers, locations, and information I was getting did not add up, and so I asked him to send a photo of his identification. I got some half-assed answer, so I called bullshit on this guy. The response I got was, okay. This person wasn't at all the persona that was being portrayed on the online profile. It was completely fake. This act is called catfishing. Unfortunately, I allowed this experience to impact me.